All right, and we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest Lodgify webinar. I'm Mikkel, and I'm a content marketing specialist here at Lodgify, and I'm super excited to have with me here today Lodgify's SEO and content manager, as well as my own manager, Alberto Fernandez. And Alberto is going to be talking about a topic that I think is super top of mind for any vacation rental business that has a website, and that is, of course, SEO. So thank you all for being here once again. We're really excited to get started. Before we dive in, just a quick look at the webinar structure to give you guys an idea of what to expect. I'll let Alberto introduce himself here in a moment, after which I will introduce Lodgify for anyone who's not familiar with us yet. And then Alberto will really dive into his presentation, starting with a look at what he calls the quiet website syndrome. He's got some great information on what this is and tips to cure your website of it if you think you're suffering from it. And then he'll end with some really important SEO basics that all vacation rental businesses should know and be aware of in 2024. And then, as always, we'll end with the Q&A session. So if you have any questions right off the bat, or if anything occurs to you throughout the webinar, please go ahead and put them right there directly in the chat on your screen. Now, a quick note on housekeeping. Keep in mind that you guys are all muted, so we cannot hear you. But again, we can see the chat. So if you have any comments or questions, go ahead and put them there. Now, if you can't hear us, that obviously is a problem. Thankfully, it's something we can usually solve just by unmuting your speaker and turning your audio up. So hopefully that solves any problems you all have. And then lastly, since we get this question a lot, yes, the webinar will be sent out. Tomorrow, you guys will get an email. So if you have to jump off early, or if you missed something, or if you want to revisit any of these topics at a later date, you will have the recording to do that. All right, now I'll hand it over to Alberto to introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Mikkel, for the introduction. It's so weird to be being the one presented. I've done a few webinars at Lodgify, but usually I'm the one introducing people. So it's really nice to be on the other side and being the one speaking this time. So yeah, as you probably know by now, my name is Alberto Fernandez. I'm the SEO and content manager here at Lodgify. Just to give you 5 cents about myself and why you should be paying attention to anything that I'm going to say. I actually joined Lodgify in January 2020. So it's actually more than 4.5 years ago. It's soon it's going to be 5 years. So during this time, I also had the chance to look and talk with a lot of customers, people with vacation rental websites. I've been going to different events, and I've seen some of the main pain points that also I've read in the chat as well of some of you. So hopefully that experience is going to help me give you some tips on how you can improve your SEO and get more direct bookings. At the moment at Lodgify, I'm managing a team of 7 fantastic content specialists, and also just some numbers about ourselves and why it's not only what I say, but also what we've done in this case with our own company. We actually grew our organic traffic by 160% since 2020. We went from having 1.1 million visits, new visitors actually on our website and blog in different languages, to almost 3 million last year. And in terms of positioning, we're also positioned top 3 for our most important product keywords, which I think it's a pretty important achievement. And hopefully with some of the tips that I'm going to give you today, you can also increase your traffic and your positioning. In total, I have, soon it's going to be more than 8 years of experience in SEO. And just a couple of fun facts about me. I'm actually from Barcelona. I'm based in Barcelona, and I'm born and raised here. Yes, we still exist. I don't know if you've been to Barcelona, but it's harder and harder to find some locals nowadays. But yeah, I'm still one of those. And just another fun fact about myself, I'm a big Lego fan. I don't know if there's any other Lego fans. I would love to hear about it in the chat. But yeah, just a couple of fun facts about myself. I would let Mikkel continue with the presentation, and then I'll start with the nitty-gritty of today. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Alberto. I'm very excited to have you here with me today as my speaker. Okay, so as we mentioned, both Alberto and I are from Lodgify. I know we've got a ton of Lodgify customers here today with us just from looking at the chat, but I'm sure some of you guys aren't familiar with us yet. So for you guys, just so you know, we are the all-in-one vacation rental platform designed to help independent hosts and property managers start, manage, and grow their vacation rental businesses. Our mission is really to empower you all to manage your business independently. And we do that with a host of tools, including our website builder, which helps you build and publish your own direct booking site, which is obviously super relevant to what we're talking about today. We've also got property management software and channel manager, among other offerings. Now, a quick look at the numbers to give you guys a better idea of us. We have over 80,000 active listings in 163 countries around the world. We've been in the business for over a decade, coming up on 11 years, and we have helped over 30,000 vacation rental websites go live. So we've been around the block. We've helped a lot of businesses create their own websites and drive direct bookings, and we're super excited to continue that with you all here today. Now, one last note from me for anyone who hasn't tried Lodgify yet and would like to, we currently have a flash sale. From now until the end of the month, you can get Lodgify at 30% off, and that's specifically for yearly and bi-yearly subscriptions to our professional and ultimate plans. So if you're wanting to try Lodgify and haven't yet, this is a great time to do so while also saving quite a bit of money. You can find out more on our website by clicking the button Try Lodgify for free at the bottom of your screen, or using the QR code there at the top right of the screen. And with that, I will hand it over to Alberto to get started.
Yeah, thank you, Mikel. Do you want me to share my screen?
I can continue sharing if you want. Just let me know when you want me to click next.
Yeah, no, before we get into that, I just want to say it's amazing to see how many people we have for the webinar. We have more than 860 people registered today. I don't think it's a record, but it's close, like a lot of people. So I'll do my best to provide useful tips for all of you. I hope you find this presentation useful. Also, I'm going to be giving the same presentation next week in Porto in the Vacation Rental World Summit. So I would really appreciate feedback from you guys. If there's anything else you think I should be mentioning, obviously at the Q&A session, feel free to leave your feedback, and that way we can also improve for future sessions. So that being said, as you can see already on screen, I'm calling this session, well, that was the original name, the Quiet Website Syndrome. And as I've seen in a lot of comments from you guys in the chat, this is something that a lot of people are struggling with. Basically, why I'm not getting enough traffic, and what can I do to boost my visibility and therefore my direct bookings. So first of all, before we get into this, you need to ask yourself a question, which is, how can people find my website? We can go to the next slide, Mikel. So yeah, can I share myself, Mikel? I think it's gonna be.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, just little suspense pause for a second.
Do I need to stop sharing?
Yeah. So I can present myself now.
There you go. And yeah, just speaking to the number of people here, I think that goes to show just how important this topic is. And so many people struggle with getting visibility into their websites. So I'm glad we can answer people's questions today.
Yeah, so, well, the first thing, like I was saying, is we need to ask ourselves the following question. How can potential guests find my website? And okay, before I spoil the 4 different types, let me just also give you a little spoiler. The thing is, you need to understand this question because it's very important. A lot of people are like, people are not finding my website. Okay, but how do you want them to find you? And I've seen this when I've been a couple of years in London doing SEO consultations in some of these industry events, and people are like, I have a vacation rental in Bristol, for example. I want people to find me, but if I search for bed and breakfast in Bristol, they don't find me. Spoiler alert, they're not gonna find you. If someone says create a website there by typing these broad keywords, they're gonna find you. That's not true, because you're gonna be competing against big OTAs that are always gonna rank you for those broad keywords. That's why there are alternative ways of getting traffic, and I always want to be realistic with you, and I don't want to make any false promises. But like I said, there are other ways, alternative ways, the way people can find your website, basically. The first one is going to be with your brand name. The second one is Google Vacation Rental. The third one that I'm going to say here is long tail keywords. And the fourth one is with related organic content. And I'm going to deep dive into all of them. Going back to the example that I just mentioned, another question: what happens if a potential guest or even a repeat guest searches for your property name on Google? What will they find? This is an example of someone that I actually talked in London last year. She was getting started in the business, and her property name, her company name was Bed and Breakfast Bristol. It was a very nice property, very nice website, but she had this issue that when someone searched for B&B Bristol, which is a city in the UK, no one would find their website. And the reason is because there were a lot of OTAs, vacation rental listing sites that were ranking for those keywords: Airbnb, Booking.com, Verbo, different niche websites about bed and breakfast. So the first thing you need to do, the easiest way and the best converting keyword that you have is your brand name, your brand keyword. So if you go for a very generic keyword like bed and breakfast Bristol, yes, it defines your business, but on the other hand, you have the big issue that one, it's not unique. Two, you won't be able to rank on Google with it. And then also, it's harder for repeat guests to remember. If you want to offer a memorable experience, you also want people to remember the name of the property so they can just go back to Google and search for it. Otherwise, you're just going to be that bed and breakfast in Bristol where I had a nice time. But then when they want to go back to you, it's going to be harder to find you. Here's another example. This is a made-up name that I made for this presentation, but Bluebell Cottage Bristol. It's a unique name that helps build a strong brand. You can even play around with Bluebell in your brand, your logo, decoration within your property. You can rank with your website online, and it's also easier for repeat guests to remember, especially if you build this whole brand and experience around it. So this is, like I said, one of the ways that people can find your website in Google. After that, no worries, I will get into some purely SEO tips. But first, I think it's important to understand how people can get to your website in order to actually rank and be found on Google. The second option is similar to the question I made at the beginning. What happens if a potential guest search for your property type and your location on Google? What will they find? Well, most likely, like I said, it's going to be listing sites, OTAs, etc. But there is a way of outranking all of these people, which is listing on Google Vacation Rentals, which is kind of like the OTA from Google. I guess that by now everyone is familiar. Otherwise, we can send some information in the chat or in the blog recap. Basically, when you search, for example, holiday cottages in Bristol, you will also get this map on top of all the results, but obviously below the ads, where you can list with your own direct booking website. What does it mean? That if someone meets the criteria, let's say check-in, check-out times, number of guests, whatever they search for, and they show up this map and they get to your website, the reservation is going to happen directly on your website. So you're not going to have to pay any commission for in this case, Google or any of the ATA, because like I said, it's going to be a direct booking. At the moment, let's be honest, a lot of the PMSs out there link and sync with Google Vacation Rentals. We're also one of them. So you have a direct integration with Google Vacation Rentals. So in case you're a Lodgify customer and you haven't connected to GVR yet, I would really recommend you because it's a great way of getting exposure on top of all the big listing sites. The second one, and this is where it gets a bit more interesting, is long tail keywords. Let's use another question, another example. If a potential guest search for a property from your specific niche market, what will they find? And I will show you some specific examples of what I mean by that. But here I want to really emphasize how important it is to find and maximize your USP, your unique selling point. I know it's not always easy. Sometimes maybe you just have an apartment, cozy apartment in the center of a big city and it's a bit harder, but still there's always ways of positioning your own company, positioning your brand. And that way you can be found maybe not by bed and breakfast in Bristol, but bed and breakfast for digital nomads in Bristol. So how do we do this? How do we find and maximize your USP, unique selling point, proposition? First, you need to choose your niche market. How do you want to position yourself? Then do research. You know, is there a lot of competition in this area? Is this something that I can position myself for? Identify your target market and then create content that resonates with your audience. And then go where they go. Are these people in Facebook groups? Are these people in Reddit? Are these people finding online? Where are these people, the potential customers for my property? I would say, I think it was a year and a half ago, we did a webinar about that specific topic with Heather Bayer. She's a big figure in the vacation rental industry. So hi, Heather, if you're by any chance are seeing this webinar. And it was really interesting because we covered all of those topics as well. You have a link here in the presentation that we will send to you where you can actually find more details about this topic. But here's just some examples of different niche markets that you can try to position yourself for. Digital nomad is a big one. Bird watchers, this is something that is very big in some areas of the US, for example. Pickleball or paddle. I don't know, not everyone can have a paddle or a pickleball court in their property, but maybe if you have a big property or a big villa, you can try to build one and then position your company as, get away with a pickleball, paddle, or tennis court, for example. Pet friendly, luxury travel, eco friendly. Like there's different ways of positioning yourself. So once you find that, it doesn't need to be just one, it could be part of your proposition. You can have different niches. Once you've identified those niches, how can you rank for it? Well, this is an example of actually two Lodgify customers. The one on the right, I was already aware of this. The one on the left, I actually came across when preparing this presentation. And it's important to tailor your website content for your niche market and highlight your USP. So I search, like using a VPN as if I was in the US, vacation rentals in Arizona for bird watching, which I didn't know, but apparently is a big thing in this US state. And the first result is like a website about, accommodations and stuff. But the second one, the one that you see highlighted in green, is actually a vacation rental website from a Lodgify customers. And they are positioning themselves as a vacation rental that is specialized because of the area, the amenities, what they offer for bird watching. So they can get a lot of traffic, maybe not by vacation rentals in Arizona as a whole, but if there's like a specific audience, like Ingrid is mentioning, that is huge in Southern Arizona. If there's someone that specifically wants, a getaway for bird watching, being number one or number two on Google is a great way to actually get some visibility. The second example in this case is from a customer in Spain, which is Skull Apartments Marbella. In this case, they wanted to position their companies as a digital nomad company. So not with the homepage, but with secondary content pages that will also cover that. They created different landing pages within their website saying what can they offer for digital nomads. And if you search for vacation rentals in Marbella, which is a region, very beautiful region in the southeast of Spain, for digital nomads, then the second result that you'll find is actually their website with that specific landing page where they cover how their properties are adapted for digital nomads. I offering Wi-Fi, a table, a desk, comfortable chair to work, etc. I just see the comment. I cannot read them all while in the meeting, but just to clarify, yeah, exactly. Unique selling, USP stands for unique selling point, unique selling proposition, basically. So these are two examples of how you can create, maybe not with your homepage if you don't want to, because that's maybe more for your specific branding, but you can create secondary pages on your website to actually, get more traffic for those niche keywords. I'm sorry, I cannot zoom in more because this is a screenshot, but when we send you the presentation, you just take my word for it for now. When we send you the presentation, you will see the examples. Basically, what I'm saying here is like highlighted two examples of two vacation rental websites made with Lodgify that position themselves in the first case for bird watching in Arizona, the second one, digital nomads in Spain. That being said, we get to the fourth point, which is kind of similar to this one, but it's more about creating organic content. So another example, if a potential guest searches for activity to do in your area on Google, what will they find? So I had this question, and I actually doing one of these SEO consultations that I mentioned before, in the UK. We had a customer that was in Snowdonia, which is a specific region in the US, in the UK, sorry, beautiful forest, a lot of hiking routes, biking routes as well, very nice area. So we, in this case, used AI. Yes, you can also use AI for this purpose, and asked the following question. I run a vacation rental management company in Snowdonia, UK. What are some topics for my destination blog about Snowdonia that I should tackle with my content? Give me the results on the table, each topic with a popularity score between 1 and 100, basically. So what ChatGPT, which by the way is a free tool, offer us was this list that you can see here. If it's a bit small, please also zoom in. And you can see some examples. Top hiking trails in Snowdonia, discover Snowdonia's stunning waterfalls, best cycling routes in Snowdonia, etc., etc. So once you have these topics, The next step is actually go back to ChatGPT and ask the AI, okay, can you create some content, for example, about what are the best hiking trails in Snowdonia? And we will talk a bit more about AI, how I see AI, and what is a great support tool, but you should not rely on AI. That we will get that more at the end of the presentation. But to begin with, let's say, like I mentioned, it's a great support tool that can help you, in this case, get some ideas for content and then some actually content itself that then you can customize with your own experience and personalization. So, like I was saying, we got this table, and then the second step was actually searching for this. So, give me the top hiking trails in Snowdonia. And this is what you see on the right. So, basically, ChatGPT gave me a list. Actually, it's way longer. It was like 10 different options, but obviously, I cannot put them all here. This is just a snapshot of the first four. But you can see the route, the difficulty, some of the details, etc. What do you achieve with this? Well, if someone is searching for hiking routes or hiking trails in Snowdonia, there is a chance that they're actually going to find your website. And maybe if they're not just visiting because they live nearby, but they actually want to spend some time in there, if they're already on your website, there's a potential guest for you. And you can do that with all the different topics that you see on that list. Okay, I hope so far it's clear. This is just, like I mentioned, to recap 4 ways that people can find your brand. Let's recap the first one, and the best converting keyword and the easiest one that you can do is buy your brand name. I think I saw a comment, I will tackle that later, about multiple properties, that it's a bit different. In this case, we can talk about how to do that when you're, for example, a property manager and you want to position your property management business versus when you have different properties. We can talk about that in the Q&A. But the brand name is super important, whether you're a property manager managing people for properties for others, or you have like one individual or a couple individual properties. The second one, with Google Vacation Rentals, is your best way to rank for broad keywords such as vacation rentals in whatever area you are, outranking the big listing sites without having to pay for the commission. And then the other two that are more related to content itself, on one hand, creating dedicated content for your niche market with landing pages or secondary pages, or even your homepage if you want to focus, if you really have a strong focus on the niche. And the second one, let's say that kind of like blog approach, where you can create secondary pages. For example, with Lodgify, you can just create secondary pages targeting all of those, what it's called, things to do in my area, whether it's hiking routes, cycling routes, hidden gems, wildlife watching, bird watching tips in Arizona, whatever you want. Again, there is no guarantee that by doing this, you are gonna get a lot of traffic. Keep in mind that the nicher you go, the less search volume for those keywords there's gonna be. But also the nicher you go, if someone actually finds your website, the more chances they are that you are gonna convert, because they're looking specifically at what you're offering. And this is something that, before we get into the basics of SEO in 2024, I also wanna emphasize here. Having content on your own, my face is too red. I'm going to put the other slide. Having a lot of content on your website has a big advantage. On one hand, you have more ways of people to find your website. I also see this often, that people complain that they don't get enough traffic, but when you go to their website, all they have is one page, which is the homepage, maybe the contact page, and then no content at all. In order to rank for something, as we will see now, you need to actually have content. So Google can read what your page is about and offer it when someone searches for anything that they think it's relevant to show your website. So that's one thing, more options to actually get traffic, more pages that people can land on your website. But the other one is, let's say, the added value that you're offering and the credibility. And this is something very important. When you're ranking on an OTA like Airbnb, Verbo, Booking.com, yes, they charge a big commission, but on the other hand, they have the benefit that people trust them, because if they know that if something is wrong, they can always go and complain to them. Not always going to find a solution, probably, but yeah, it's a good way of, there's someone in the middle that they can trust. It's a big company. It's a safety for them. However, if you are with your own website, it's riskier as a host. Why would I trust this website that only has a homepage? Unless I'm a repeat guest, it's a bit tricky. Having content on your website proves that, should prove at least that you're more like a real person. There's a real person behind that knows the area, that knows what guest needs, and it's another way of giving more credibility to your site. And if someone lands on your website, and your website looks nice with content, tips, they're more likely to convert because you're giving that extra credibility compared to a website with just one page. Now, talking a lot. I hope so far it's clear. Also, what happens with SEO is that it's kind of like a touchy thing. When you ask people in the SEO world, how can I do this or that? The most common answer is it depends, and it really depends, because if you want to rank on position one and there's someone in position one, that means that if you get that top position, they are going to second position, and they're always going to try to get that position back. So you're always competing against people. Every market is different. Every industry is different. Maybe there's not a lot of people creating content for bird watching, vacation rentals in Arizona, but there's a lot of people creating content for digital nomad apartments in Marbella. So you're also competing against other people, and it really depends on where you are located. So there's a lot of circumstances. Also, the knowledge that people has about SEO really varies. So obviously we have a lot of people here today. I'll try to keep it as high level as possible, but at least you can get some takeaways from it. That being said, what is SEO? So actually, SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, and it's basically, in a nutshell, all about optimizing your website and your content to increase your visibility in search engine results, such as Google. I mean, there are other search engine results, Yahoo, Bing, Yandex. There are different ones, but Google has like 90% of the market share. So also, for the purpose of this meeting, I'm just going to probably refer to Google, because also if something works in Google, it's going to work on the other search engines, except for Google Vacation Rentals. The other ones, they don't have it. But like I say, 90% of the traffic worldwide is going through Google. So most likely your customers will find you in Google. And the ultimate goal, like I said, is rank as high as possible for the most important keywords for your business to attract, in this case, potential guests that could eventually book a stay at your property. This is also something very important. You don't have to care that much about having like a lot of traffic, as long as instead of, you should be focusing more on getting qualified traffic, like things that can be useful for people that might stay at your property or that people potentially staying at your property might find on Google. So if I'm going to travel, for example, to Arizona, I might be interested in knowing, like I said, best bird watching spots in Arizona. And after that, I might search for a vacation rental in that area to stay. So you always have to keep that in mind. Everything we do needs to be done with the user intent in mind. What is going to be useful for my guests? Here, this is the time when you take your phones and take a screenshot and scan and download this. This is just, we will also probably send this by email, but this is just a free SEO checklist that I made. That here I cannot talk about everything SEO-wise, because there are some things that also are more technical. So like I said, depending on the knowledge of everyone, it could get really boring. But in this specific checklist, I'm covering other topics that I'm not going to talk about today. You can just download it for free. And it's kind of like a summary of what I'm going to say now, plus some additional tips with links of free tools that you can use and different other elements. You can scan it. I will also show it at the end of the presentation in case you want to scan it, and probably will send it by email. But that being said, there are some things that are very important when it comes to SEO. And now I'm going to focus on like 4 different aspects that are key elements for SEO. The first one is your page title and your meta description. Basically, how are your website pages displayed in Google results? Meaning, okay, someone searched for my brand name. When you search for Google, there's all these results, these different blogs that have the name of your website, the URL of the website, and then a little description of that website. That's the page title and the meta description. So this is very important, because this is the first thing that Google and other search engines look at to understand what the page is about. Title, the description, and then the content itself of the page. So you really want to make sure that you have the most important keywords for every specific page in the page title. So, for example, for your homepage, like we said, the brand name is probably the most important element for your homepage, because it's really who you are. It's the name of your company, of your property. So you really want to include that. But also, you probably have some main keywords that you want to rank for. If you're a property management company, you could say like property management company for luxury rentals in France, for example. Or in this case, going back to the made up company that I mentioned at the beginning, you could say Bluebell Cottage Bristol, which is your brand name, and then a small summary of what you are, your cozy retreat in coastal Somerset, which is a specific region. And then with the meta description, you emphasize a bit more into that main page. So enjoy the perfect getaway with modern comforts in coastal Somerset, perfect for staycations, families and couples. Book our holiday cottage today. Always it's nice, for example, to have a CTA, a call to action at the end to make people actually click on your result. So summarizing this, each page, and this is very important, and I will also explain why, each page on your website needs a unique page title and meta description. Why do I say this? I see this so often when I do consultations or look at customers' websites. Like I mentioned, every page needs content specifically for that page. So for example, if you want to rank with your brand name and a cozy retreat in coastal Somerset, you will have content for these keywords in your homepage. But then if you want to rank for, I don't know, cozy retreat for digital nomads in Bristol, you will probably have a second page that is not your homepage where you will cover the content, like we saw in the examples before. So in this case, it's also very important to make sure that each of these pages have a unique page title. I've seen, like I was saying, I've seen this a lot in Lodgify customers, not only Lodgify customers, everyone is doing this, that they put a lot of effort into the homepage, make sure they have a nice page title, and then you go to secondary pages and the title is like, I don't know, house or other landing page, things like, you're not telling Google what the page is about. So that's why you really need to complete that information for every single of these pages. Like I said, if it's your homepage, make sure you include your brand name and the most important keywords in your title, and your meta description should be descriptive to incentivize clicks. Well, this is just some examples, again, in the checklist that I think Mikael already shared in the chat as well. Thanks for that. There's also some examples of tools that you can use because this has a specific maximum length. There are a lot of free tools where you can just check the maximum length, or like I said at the beginning, use ChatGPT. And if you're like blog, maybe ask for tips on how can I write a nice meta description for my website. This is my page. This is what I want to say, and they will take care of it for you. Second one, and we've talked about this already, another very important element in SEO, content creation. We've talked about this with some examples. Here I'm going to give you a couple of examples more. How many pages can potential guests find or access your website on? Don't focus only on the homepage. Create more pages with specific content for each one of them. The more pages you create with more content, the more chances, let's say the more entry doors people are going to have to actually access your website. So for example, this is another Lodgify customer, and they have a blog section within your Lodgify site. And one of these blogs is about the 5 best coffee shops in Joshua Tree and Yucca Valley area. And if you use any SEO tools, you can actually see how many people are searching for this. And there are a lot of related keywords. For example, Joshua Tree coffee shops. It's something that around 140, 150 people search every month. And the different variations make it maybe like 500 because there's like Joshua Tree coffee shops in Joshua Tree coffee shops, best coffee shops in Joshua Tree. Like there are different keyword variations. This is just one example. So if you actually type in this, you see the results here on the right, which is actually the first result is this website, which is the 7th Rate House with that specific blog page. So if someone is looking for coffee shops in this area, they will come to this blog page that, as you can see here on the top, it says book now. So you're obviously offering quality content to people, and there's always the option of getting a reservation, a potential customer out of it. So content creation, very important. Now we're going to get into a more tricky one, which is link building. Something that I also get asked a lot is, okay, I want to get direct bookings, I want to do content. How much time should I dedicate? How much effort should I put into this? And as always, as a good SEO, the answer is always going to be, it depends. It depends on how much time you want to put it. It's going to be directly, or should be directly, a reflection of the results you can get. Link building is something that you don't do specifically on your own site, but it's more kind of like doing sales pitches to other websites to actually link to you. Let me Forget it for a second about what's on the screen and let me explain the way also Google works. So if you wanna rank, if you want Google to rank your website, you need to prove to Google that you're actually trustworthy, that your content is good, and you're trustworthy enough to rank. Because why would they choose you over someone else that is doing the same content, right? I did like a master class with the same content a month ago, and someone asked this question, a very, very good question. Why, if everyone that is doing the same thing, why is Google gonna rank me instead of this other company that is doing the same content, especially if everyone is using AI? And SEO has a lot of factors, but one of them is, like I was saying, how trustworthy you are. So the way Google works is Google, they have like different, let's imagine I'm going to use this metaphor. Think of the website as a big spider net. Every dot is a website. Google is the spider that goes from website to website through different nets. And every dot is connected by a link, right? So let's say if someone is looking for vacation rentals for bird watching in Arizona, then Google might find you by your own website. But if let's say there are like 10 more websites that they're doing like lists of best places to stay for bird watching in Arizona, and they all link to your website, Google then is going to say like, hey, there were all these 10 websites that actually were linking to, the Lodgify website in this case, when they were recommending places to stay for bird watching in Arizona. That means that it's not only them recommending themselves, but it's also a lot of other people that are linking and recommending them, let's say, as a good place to stay by sending traffic and links to that website. So basically, I know this might be a bit complex. If you have questions, I can clarify later. But what I want to say with this is that Google works with signals. So the more websites that actually include links or mentions to yours, the better. Is the best way to build authority to your website, build credibility, and indirectly help you rank better. Now, how do we do link building? That's the tricky part. So first, you need to find potential websites that are likely to reach out to you, to link to your website. And here's an example based on what we did just a few slides ago. Remember that Snowdonia section with the biking routes and all of that? Well, this is a similar example. I know this is very small, I'm sorry for that. But on the left, the screenshot on the left is if you search for Isle of Man, which is another region in the United Kingdom, cycling routes, you see that the first result in this case is actually a blog with top 10 best cycling routes on the Isle of Man, right? Which is what you see on the right. And this, in this case, is not a Lodgify customer or a vacation rental. It's actually an cycling insurance company, right? So, they're number one on Google for this keyword that it's likely that someone from your potential guest might search on Google. So what you can do here is you go to this website, you find a contact page, and you reach out to them. And then it's kind of like doing a partnering with local businesses. I don't know if some of you do partnering with local businesses. I will talk to that, but it's also a great way of getting visibility. You can reach out to them and say like, hey, I saw that you have this blog about best cycling routes on the Isle of Man. I have a vacation rental business in this area. Would you be willing to, for example, include a mention like if someone is coming from, outside and wants to stay in the Isle of Man, here's a good vacation rental I recommend. And in exchange, for example, you can recommend the insurance that they are offering as an upsell to any potential customers are staying at your property. So it's a win-win situation. You offer an insurance company, you can make money out of it, and in return, they can link to your website, helping you build authority. And if someone searches for this, you can also get referral traffic. So not only SEO, but potential people reading this might land on your website as a referral traffic. So it's a win-win situation. That's why partnering with local businesses can also be a great way to get links. Or, a bit more of details into this. You can just go to restaurants in your town and just let them know, I might recommend your restaurant in my welcome book guide, for example, or my welcome letter. Like if you're looking for a place to eat, you can go to this place. And in exchange, all I ask you is that if you have a website, you link to me, or you can also go more like old school and just like leave some pamphlets. But in this case, we're focusing on SEO and digital marketing, so we're going to ignore the pamphlets for now. But yeah, you can just try to find the website they have, see if they have a blog. Maybe you can come up with this type of agreement that it's a win-win solution for all. So the last one is not so much focused on SEO, but basically it's another way that you can distribute your content. Like I said, when we talk about SEO, it's basically putting our content out there so people can actually find it organically, whether it's with your homepage or secondary pages, and actually um, land on your website. You can also be more proactive on how you distribute channel. And just a quick note, since the beginning of the year, I don't know if you're all familiar with Reddit. Reddit is a forum company that is become, it's always been popular, but now it's been more and more popular. And actually Google came to an agreement with Reddit in order to use their information also for the AI engines. Long story short, in exchange, now whenever you search for something on Google, it's very likely that there are a lot of Reddit results included. So if you search for things like what area to stay in Barcelona or where to stay on Joshua Tree on Google, some of the main results are going to be Reddit. So in this case, my recommendation is create a Reddit profile and be active on this social network or in these forums. Just be careful because Reddit are very against just promotional content. So make sure that you really offer something of value for customers. So instead of maybe sharing, here's my location where you can stay, you can just say, hey, if you're staying in Joshua Tree, here are some nice coffee shops that you can go to. And obviously you're sending them a link to your landing page that in the end is your website. So indirectly, they're still going to see your content. That's one of the purposes that you can use Reddit for distribution content, but also it's a very useful source of information. Here are the example of 3 different Reddit forums. One for Airbnb hosts, well, actually 2 for Airbnb hosts. The first one with 60K members, the second one with 15K members, and the last one with almost 3K members about short-term rentals in general. So you can also, if you have questions, you can also go there, ask people, and one of the 60K members probably is gonna have gone through the same issue that you have, and they're very likely to give you an answer. You can see an example here on the right is a question that someone posted on Airbnb, the Airbnb Reddit forum. As a newer host, should we accept guests with no reviews or new to the platform? And there are actually 40 comments answering this question. So it's not only a good place to distribute your content, but also to find potential people to help you with your issues on a daily basis. That being said, we're getting to the end of this presentation, and I really want to emphasize the 5 main mantras of SEO in 2024 that you should keep in mind at all time. The first one is do your research. If you want to create some content to rank, please look into who's ranking for that content. Is there actually a potential opportunity for that content? Are people finding that content? Because otherwise you can create pages that if no one is actually searching for that, you're not going to get traffic anyway. So use tools. There's a lot of SEO free tools that you can use to get like search volume from different keywords. You can also ask ChatGPT. In this SEO checklist, you'll get another example of different tools that you can use to do that research part. It's very important, and I really want to emphasize that. The second one and the third one are actually very related. Is prioritize originality and focus on depth and expertise. And it's what I said at the beginning. Everyone can use ChatGPT to get some content. You can create a lot of pages with ChatGPT in half an hour. What is going to make you stand out for your competition is what you do that with that content afterwards. So don't just take the content in there. Maybe just try to add some extras, some tips that you know specifically from the area. Or if you had customers that did, for example, that specific hiking route in your area, maybe share also the review from your guest and say like, look, our guests also say this. That way you're also going to show that first is unique because no one else has that guest probably, and also that you have that expertise in the area. So also, why people choose vacation rentals over hotels. Many cases it's because of that added value, that personalized experience. That's something that a hotel is probably never going to give you. But if you're an owner with a vacation rental, you can offer that. And your website is a great way of showing that expertise and focus. So focus on that, basically. That's also related to the next point. Think about guest interests. This is very important always. Whenever you do something, keep in mind, is this something that would be interesting for my guests? Is this something that my guests could find on Google? So different things like this. And lastly, the most important one, be patient. This sentence that it's like SEO takes time. And it really does. Like what you cannot expect is, okay, I created my website 2 weeks ago. I'm not getting traffic. Because like I said, you need to create content. Ideally, you get some mentions, you get some links, you would find other ways to distribute it, to share that content. And again, it takes time. The bigger the website it is, the easier it is for Google to actually go back to it, read, rank it again. But especially if you're beginning, it takes time. And by times, I mean weeks, months. So don't lose hope. I hope some of these tips might help you find alternative ways, let's say, of getting your website out there, helping people to actually find your website, and just don't give up. It takes time. Like I said, we've been doing this at Lodgify for years, and it took us years to get in the top positions and grow our traffic the amount of what we've done. And it's our we have a dedicated team for that. It's our day-to-day thing. So obviously you guys have other things. So this is maybe like the SEO part, the marketing part is like a side part of the job. So we understand that it's going to take time, but with time and effort, you don't need to be doing 20 pages all at once. You can be say, okay, this Wednesday that I don't have any bookings, maybe I'll create a couple of pages and I'll do half an hour of research to find, okay, who's ranking for the content related to my area and see if I can get some link in exchange. It's also important. I think I'll go through the comments now because there's a lot of comments. I haven't been able to read them. I saw that someone mentioned about a link exchange. It's also important that the links where you're putting the link exchange, basically it's relevant. Like, for example, if I sell shoes and I have an e-commerce to sell shoes and I link to your website, if I don't have a specific shop in your area and it's like local and it's related to where you are, it's probably not going to be very useful. So make sure that you find things that are really relevant, close to your area, etc. And with that, here's again the checklist in case you want to download again. Otherwise, Mikhail, if you can also send it in the chat, please, so people can download it. I think that's going to be more useful. I just want to say thank you to all of you. We still have 12 minutes. We can stay maybe a bit more because I think there's a lot of questions. So let's try to answer as many as we can. That concludes my presentation. So, Mikhail, if you want to be pulling questions in the screen and then...
Yeah. Just so you all know, I put the link to the SEO checklist in the chat once more, and we'll also include it in the recap tomorrow, so you can access that in the future. And yeah, tons of great questions, so thank you all, and great presentation, Alberto. I think you had a lot of great advice for everyone here. You can tell just based on the questions.
Did you guys find it useful? Was it clear? Apart from the questions, I would love to hear your feedback. So what did you think? Was it easy to understand? Would you like me to emphasize something else? You think you can take those tips and use them for the future for your vacation rental? So I'll go over the questions now, but I would also love to hear your feedback. Thank you.
For sure, yeah. Feel free to leave feedback in the comment section as well. But yeah, let's get started with some questions. The first one, do you recommend to make a blog on your website to post the related organic content?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like I said, the more doors you open for people to land on your website, the better. You don't need to do like a specific blog per se. You can maybe create like a list of landing pages covering different topics. That's also fine. You can just create like a folder on your website about things to do I'm just going to use Arizona for the rest of the meeting, I think, things to do in Arizona or the specific location where you are. And then a drop down with like, you can start with 5-10 landing pages, because obviously also doing a blog is hard to maintain. So I would say focus on 10 pages that cover the most interesting things, the most popular queries, and just make sure to keep it updated. This is another mistake that I see very often. I created my website 5 years ago and I haven't edited back in 5 years. Well, things change over time. Google really appreciates freshness of content. So I would say in this case, just make sure from maybe every year, go back to your content, review it. Is it still relevant? Should I add something else? Maybe an extra review from a guest to give it a bit more freshness. But yeah, definitely, it's the best thing you can do. Again, blog, simply landing pages, whatever it is, but just make sure that it has like every page is targeting a specific topic that people, when they find that topic specifically, Google thinks that your content is good enough in order to show it for that specific search.
Awesome, for sure. Okay, next question. So what if your niche is time sensitive? And this person says, for example, here in Ecuador on the coast, whale watching is from June to October and turtle nesting is from September to December. Can I change my long tail keywords?
In this case, what I would recommend is once you have a page and you have content for that set of keywords for the topic, don't change it because, like I said, it takes time to rank well. What I would do is just do alternative pages. Like seasonality is an issue for everyone, even for us in the vacation rental industry as a software. We see better months like Jan, the beginning of the year, everyone is like, okay, I'm going to start my business. And then after low season, after peak season, people are like, okay, well, I wait for next year. So seasonality is something that you're always going to find in every business, most likely, especially something like hospitality. So I would say make your best keywords, the strong keywords, maybe for your homepage or main pages, but then add some secondary pages to target for those activities that you can do during low season, for example. So you still have a chance to get traffic during that season. But again, this is something that I'm guessing you're all struggling and you should also be aware of seasonality. That's something that obviously it's not necessarily related to SEO. This is something that we see the search volume for a specific keyword varies a lot throughout the year. Like maybe at the beginning of the year, like I was saying, or during peak season, there's a lot of people searching for, I don't know, vacation rentals in Barcelona because it's summer. People come a lot. People come all the year to Barcelona. Let's say Marbella, which is maybe more a summer destination in the coast of Spain. Obviously during summer more people are going to search and your website is going to get more traffic, and in December probably you're going to get less traffic. Does it mean that your SEO is bad? Maybe you're still positioned in the same exact same place on Google. It's just that there's less people searching for it. So I would say that's why it's important to understand, okay, how am I positioned for the keywords that I want to be ranking for? Because if I'm getting less traffic, maybe it's not because I drop in rankings, maybe it's simply less people are searching for it. So yeah, that would be my super long answer to your question. Hope it was useful.
Great, thank you. Here's a question that came up a few times. How come my brand name, in this case, like putting your brand name into Google, always links back to Airbnb and booking, but not to my Lodgify hosted page?
That's an interesting thing. In this case, it's something that we should look at specifically. I can ask a few questions like, what is your brand name? Is it, like I said, is it a generic brand name? Is it a like more niche brand name? How long have you had your website since it was created? Because sometimes, especially for new websites, Google takes some time to actually what is called indexing, which means putting it on Google. In a nutshell, that's kind of what it means. You should also check, there's also in the checklist, I think I mentioned Google Search Console, which is a free tool from Google that I really recommend that. Mikhail, if you can write it in the chat, please. That's super useful, Google Search Console, because it allows you to see the traffic that you're getting on Google and what keywords are people using to find you on Google. And you can also use, it's a free tool. You can just put your domain there and that's it. Well, I think you need to connect it to your website, but there's, I think we have a knowledge base article explaining how to do that with Lodgify website. It's very easy. Point being, you can also see more technical elements that I didn't want to get into details, like is your website actually indexed, like it's Google reading your website? And if not, you can get like some tips on how to do this or why this is happening. So again, specific scenarios, I would say also how much, if you really want to rank with your homepage for your brand name, going back to the same topic, how much content you have. Because if your homepage is empty of content, you just have like the banner and maybe like one paragraph, that's what it's called thin content in the eyes of Google, which is like not enough content. And maybe Airbnb or Booking, you have like a proper description on your main page that actually has more content than on your own homepage. So that's also something you need to look at, make sure that your homepage, if your keywords, you use your brand name, make sure to use your brand name across your homepage, have like different sections, headings, subheadings. Again, in the checklist, you get more details on how to structure your pages. And if you're, like I said, your main keyword in this case is vacation rentals for bird watching with your homepage in Arizona, just make sure that you also mention a bit about bird watching in Arizona, why your property is good for it, because yeah, you need content. Otherwise, you're never going to rank.
Definitely. Yeah, we can include a link to Google Search Console in the recap tomorrow. And on that note, we've also got a question here about search volume tools to determine which keywords are the most popular. I'll let you respond, but we'll also include them in the recap tomorrow. So don't feel like you need to write everything down right now.
Yeah, we will also send that. There's some, obviously the good ones are paid tools, SEMrush, Ahrefs, Small, but they cost like 200 euros per month, and I would definitely not recommend that unless you have like 150 properties and you want to rank separately for them. And like, there's some free ones that you can use. Uber Suggest, for example, is also in the list. The checklist allows you to do, I think it's like 10 searches per day. So that maybe could be also a good way for you to, okay, I'm going to do a bit of research today. I'm going to do the research tomorrow. You can also use ChatGPT, although it's not that accurate as a proper SEO tool, but it can give you some ideas on different topics. But yeah, we will share those. There's a lot of them. And like I said, it's really important because the search volume in the end, what it does is it's tell you how many people are regularly every month searching for that topic. That's the advantage of SEO and organic content, that it means that there's going to be always, in this case, 200 people, 300 people searching for that specific thing every month. Also keep in mind that, you know, those tools are not like the holy grail. Like, you have to take everything with a bit of a, like a, how do you call it? With
Grain of
a
salt.
grain of salt. Exactly. Thank you,
Yep.
Mika. Because there's also a lot of keywords, and you can see that on Search Console, maybe that they look like they don't have a lot of search volume, but actually people search it and they get to your website through that. So just use it as an indication, as an idea. Like I said, don't focus maybe so much on keywords per se, but more like topics. What is the topic of this page? What is the topic of that page? Is it digital nomad? Is it bird watching? Is it hiking routes? Is it biking trails? What is it? So yeah.
Okay, next question is about linking, probably one of the more complicated things to tackle as a vacation rental business owner. And the question is, for linking, does both ways make it valuable, us link to them, or only valuable if they link to us?
Yeah, also very good question. They're really good questions.
Yeah.
So the main value is if they link to you. Um, you don't get extra value by linking to other people, and also be careful not linking to a lot of people at the time, because then you can also be considered kind of spammy because you're adding a lot of links. Also, yeah, if you link exchange, I would recommend maybe, okay, I'll do one now and then the other one 3 weeks later, so it doesn't look like it's like a just a handshake exchange, you know. But especially if they link to you, that's where the value is. However, Google always say, do whatever is useful for the user. So if you're writing a blog about top 10 restaurants, for example, including the link to those restaurants is useful for the user because they might want to read the menu. They might want to see how to get there. So don't over obsess with the links you put on your website. Just make it natural that it's useful for the people reading that specific page, and you should be good. But yeah, the effort should be on getting other people, which is the hardest thing, getting other people to link to your website on their website.
Okay, here's another great question. I know we're running out of time, but there's so many good ones. This person says, I often participate in Reddit hosting discussions, generally because I enjoy helping other hosts. Is there a good way to leverage this activity to improve the SEO of my site without appearing too mercenary?
Like I said, Reddit is not good for SEO necessarily. Like, it's not linking to your website on Reddit is not going to help your SEO. This is the short answer. However, it can help you drive traffic to your website. So SEO means everything we do to rank higher on Google, right? Sharing your website on Reddit is not going to help you rank higher on Google. But like I said, it's a good way of distributing your website so more people can get to it, and then you can get more potential leads or customers out of it, or guests basically out of it. So just think of it more as a distribution channel in case you want to use it for that, not so much SEO purposes. But also, like I mentioned, now more and more people, like all of these Reddit threads are shown directly on Google. So for a lot of the keywords that you might want to rank, there might be a Reddit thread there. So if people actually click on the Reddit thread, they might actually see your website in that discussion. So indirectly, you're getting also more visibility on Google because that thread of Reddit, that specific forum, is actually being shown on Google.
Awesome. Do we have time for one more question?
Yeah, I think we can. I mean, I know
Yeah.
it's late, Mika, but I mean, for me, we can stay like 5, 10 minutes more if people
Okay.
are. There's a lot of questions, so I'm happy to take.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of good ones. So this person's asking, is it better to have different people contribute to the blog?
Oof, that's a tricky one. It depends. Like I said, not really. Google values the expertise of the person writing or the blog where it's written. So no, if you create your own, if you write it as yourself, you build yourself as an authority on that area, on the topics to talk about. No, it should not make a difference, to be honest.
Another question, how do photos affect your SEO?
Okay, that's also a very good question. Um, you're picking, well, I mean, all of them are really good, but you're picking the really interesting ones. So pictures and SEO are important. This is a bit more technical. Again, in the checklist, there's an explanation about SEO for images, if I recall correctly. Um, Basically, um, okay, how do I say this? There's like a specific tag for images. It's a technical thing that is called alternative text tag. So when Google cannot read images, like Google cannot go to an image and say, oh, it's a landscape or it's like a beautiful house in the coast. But by adding that information, when you're uploading the picture, for example, on Lodgify, there's like a field for it. I guess every website builder has it. It's a specific field. You can say what the picture is about. So if then someone is searching for that specific thing on Google and that picture is yours, if we're talking about stock images, forget everyone is using stock images. You're never going to rank with a stock image. But if you have your own images and someone searches for that on Google, you also have the chance of ranking on Google Images, for example. Let's say someone is searching for beautiful villas in I don't know, Costa Malfitani in Italy, and you have your unique images, you have a chance to rank on Google Images. Also, more and more Google is showing images directly on the results when you search for something. But again, that really depends on the specific search. I think in the vacation rental industry, it's not that common to show images directly after a search. But definitely, it adds context to what the page is about. And it's what I said at the beginning. Every page should be about a specific topic. If you have images in that specific page and you tag those images about, for example, view from the vacation rental in Arizona for bird watching, you're just telling Google, not only I have content about bird watching in Arizona, I also have images that act as support and show exactly how my property is. So maybe not so much directly, but indirectly it can help. Like I said, Google, especially Google Images, and maybe at some point there's like a carousel of images triggering some searches, and you can also get the option of being featured there. And if they click on the image, they go to your website. So another way of getting traffic.
All right. Next question, for us agencies who have several properties displayed, how do we boost the SEO for each of those properties individually?
That's that's a nice, that's a tricky one that I mentioned at the beginning. Again, I'm gonna use my wild card. It depends. It depends of you have different websites for each one of them, or it's one page with like different locations. We also need to be realistic. Like if you have different websites for each one of them, try to rank them separately. Like focus on the brand name, on the main keywords for each one of them, what makes each one distinctive. But if you're managing, we have customers that are managing 100, 200 properties. You cannot rank for each one of them individually. It would be impossible. So, for example, the example I gave before about Skull Apartments Marbella, they are apartments. They manage like 90 apartments, and each one of them has different little differences. But in the end, they're very similar. The view is different, maybe the amenities are a bit different, but in the end, it's the same. So try to position, in this case, the brand that you have, Skull Apartment, and then the different niche. So create a page for apartments for digital nomads in Marbella, apartments for I don't know, eco-friendly apartments or luxury apartments in Marbella. Again, it goes back to the unique selling proposition that every property has. If all the properties are more or less the same, it's really going to be complicated because how are you going to make one different than the other? So maybe focus on the activities and then use that landing page to maybe, for example, with Lodgify, you can create a landing page and then you can have like the different links to each of your property at the bottom of that landing page or whatever you want. So maybe try to attract people with a specific topic about that area and then offer the different properties embedded in that page. Or like I said, if they're unique, try to position them. But again, find what makes them unique. How can each one of them stand out? Because otherwise, what is going to be the added value of having 100 different pages?
Yeah. I think we're definitely getting a little into the weeds here with some things that start to get more complicated. So I feel like this next question is a good one, which is, does Lodgify offer SEO services? And then a related question I've seen is when it makes sense to start outsourcing SEO and how much that costs.
We're not
Also,
cheap. Like
yeah.
we as SEOs, we're not cheap because we are very niche industry as well. Not talking Lodgify, I'm talking about SEO specifically. So I'm gonna tackle this question first. Lodgify, we don't offer SEO services as of right now. We do work with a couple of freelancers that have worked with Lodgify in the past, and they have experience in dealing with Lodgify websites. So in that case, I would say maybe send an email to us, and maybe we can get you in touch with them. This is something that it's come up a lot in the past, like doing this marketplace of experts, because there's a lot of people that maybe needs help with design, with SEO and stuff. But it's something that at the moment still being considered, but we're not offering at the moment. But like I said, maybe reach out to us, and then we can see if we can hook you up with some of the couple of experts that we've worked in the past. Otherwise, I don't say I said this, I cannot recommend it, but there's people on like different platforms like Upwork and Fiverr that are like freelancer platforms that are offering Lodgify services for your website, like SEO and stuff. We cannot veto them because we don't know them personally. So I cannot say they're good, they're bad. So don't say we recommended them because that's not true. But I know there's people online that say like they work with Lodgify websites. So maybe you can reach out to them. Also, going back to the cost in those platforms, um, you can see usually it's like price per hour. It really depends on the market. The like US is probably way more expensive than maybe Spain, for example. So it really depends on where you're located. I would say do some kind of like benchmark in those platforms and see if it's worth it. And yeah, depends again on how much you want to invest in terms of money and results. But like I said, I really like Kane's comment. It's frustrating at first, just be patient and keep creating content. Really, it's it's the way it goes. It's not an easy win. You can just buy. I think there was a comment well at the beginning about Google Ads. We didn't cover Google Ads because it's like completely different thing. Google Ads, you just pay for that keyword, and you have also like a competing betting system, but you can rank automatically if you win the bet. Let's say organic is completely different, but you're always going to be there for free. So just keep working on it.
All right. Yeah, Google Ads might be a separate webinar, right?
Yeah.
But for today, I feel like we've covered the questions that have come up the most or the most broadly relevant, but there is one that's pretty fun that I want to end on. And that is, my business name is Bailey's on the Rocks Cottages, and I find it competes with the alcoholic drink. Is there any way to get past this?
Wow, it's
Right?
fun. It's really tricky. Wow, let me think about it. Oof. I love your name, but have you thought about changing it? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, really, really hard. It's similar to the Bed and Breakfast Bristol, you know. That's why I love the name. It's super fun, and you can probably build a really cool brand around it. But organically, per se, with your brand name, it's gonna be tricky. Just, I mean, no one's gonna search for that with cottages next to it, probably. So maybe that's your chance. Maybe you could just come up with an agreement with, Bailey's and try them to promote your property. And do some kind of like fun marketing campaign with them. That could be an idea. But yeah, I would say always if the brand name doesn't work, try those alternative ways to make sure that at least there's other people to find the property. But other than that, really cool name. If they find you, really cool name.
Yeah, tricky, but it's very fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know we still have even more questions coming in, but we're already 10 minutes over. So we can definitely try and address any questions that are still there in our recap tomorrow. We'll also be sure to include links to all the tools we've mentioned.
I want Yeah, I want to tackle one that I see from
Go for
ambient
it.
brains because I think this is also important about the social media posting, whether that
Mm,
affects SEO or not. Social media per se does not affect SEO. Like if you get your website link on Facebook or Twitter or X or Instagram, again, it's a distribution channel. You may get traffic out of it, but it's not going to help you rank higher on Google That's not a link that counts to rank higher. Links needs to be on websites, like we said at the beginning. But again, it's a great way to get your brand out there. I didn't focus on that because today was more how they can find you on Google, and social media is a bit different. But it's a great way to get exposure, not necessarily helping you rank higher. Just to clarify that, because everyone asked this question, I think is also very interesting. Sorry, Miguel, you can go ahead.
No, yeah, no, that's a great question. And yeah, that does come up a lot. So it's good to tackle that. And yeah, like I was saying, we'll try and address any lingering questions in our recap tomorrow. We'll include links to the SEO checklist and any tools we've mentioned in case you didn't get a chance to jot those down. We'll also include your email, Victo, for SEO referrals for anyone who is interested in that. And anything I'm missing that you can think of?
I think no. Just
All
say
right.
thank you to everyone. It was so nice to have you. Also, the engagement has been amazing. Thank you for all your questions, your comments, and your good comments also at the end of the meeting. It's really motivating for us as well to keep doing this. Best of luck with your website, with your SEO. Have patience, keep working hard on it, and eventually you'll reap the reward. So thank you also, Mikhail, for hosting this.
Yeah, thank you for your great presentation and everyone for being here and your friendly comments. Great questions. I don't think I've ever seen such great questions. So we appreciate you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.
Bye.